The wind rolled down from the red mesas, carrying the scent of dust, sage, and the promise of rain. It swept across the wide plains and into the small town of Willow Creek, where the saloon's piano played a tune that seemed older than the land itself. Clara May stood outside that saloon, clutching the handle of her worn satchel. Her dress, patched twice and mended 3 times, fluttered around her legs. She'd come to town to find work, but every help-wanted sign she saw came with the same look from the owners, a glance that started at her face and ended with a polite shake of the head. She wasn't ugly, not in any cruel way, but the years of hard living on her family's failing ranch had left her freckled, sunburned, and lean. Her brown hair was unremarkable, and her eyes, gray and thoughtful, didn't sparkle the way fancy women's did in magazines. When she finally stepped into the saloon, heads turned, not because she was beautiful, but because she looked out of place. A woman alone, sober, and clearly not there for whiskey or cards. Behind the counter stood the saloon keeper, polishing a glass. "Can I help you, miss?" "I was hoping for work," Clara said softly. "Cleaning, cooking, anything honest." Before the man could answer, a voice from the corner drawled, "You can cook, you say?" The speaker was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in dusty denim and a dark hat that shadowed his eyes. His boots were worn from long rides, and his hands large and rough rested on the table like they'd built half the West. "Yes, sir," she said. He leaned back in his chair. "Name's Wade Coulter. I've got a ranch 30 miles west of here. My housekeeper up and left last week said the quiet was driving her mad." Clara blinked. "You're offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a chance," he said simply. "You can stay in the bunkhouse for now. Pays fair. Works hard." She nodded. "I'll take it." The saloon keeper frowned. "Wade, you sure you want—" "I'm sure," the cowboy interrupted. "She looks like someone who's not afraid of blisters." The ride to the Coulter Ranch was long and silent. The trail wound through low canyons, past juniper trees twisted by years of wind. Wade's horse moved steady beside Clara's borrowed mare. The land looked harsh, but alive gold and rust under a sky that seemed endless dot by the time they reached the ranch. The sun was dropping behind the hills. The house wasn't large, but it stood solid, a whitewashed 2-story with a porch that creaked under their boots. "You can put your things in that room there," Wade said, pointing toward the side building. "Start in the morning. I'll show you the chores." Clara nodded, grateful. That night, she sat on the bunkhouse bed and let out a long breath. She'd found work. Maybe, just maybe, she'd found a place to start again. Morning came early, painted in orange light. Clara rose before dawn, lit the stove, and began breakfast. By the time Wade walked in, coffee was brewing and biscuits were browning in the oven. He paused in the doorway, surprised. "You're up early." "Habit," she said with a small shrug. He smiled faintly. "I like that." Over the next days, she worked hard. She cleaned the house, fixed the torn curtains, and even patched one of Wade's shirts when she thought he wouldn't notice. He did notice. "You've got a steady hand," he said one afternoon, watching her mend. "Years of practice," she replied. "Clothes don't mend themselves on a ranch." Their rhythm settled easily her work, his long rides to check fences and cattle, shared dinners by the fire. But Wade couldn't help noticing things, how she hummed quietly when she cooked, how her laughter, rare but real, filled the room with warmth. And Clara noticed him too. He was quiet but kind, never once raising his voice or giving orders like a man who thought himself above others. When he spoke, it was with a gentleness that caught her off guard. Still, every time she caught her reflection in the window, she reminded herself men like him didn't fall for women like her. One evening, after a long day fixing the barn roof, Wade came in, hat in hand. Clara was washing dishes, her sleeves rolled to her elbows. "Storm's coming," he said. "Could be bad." Might lose the southern fence again. I'll help you check it, she offered instantly. He looked surprised. You do that? I've seen my share of storms. I know how to brace a post. He chuckled. All right then, Miss Clara May. Let's see what you're made of. By the time the thunder rolled across the hills, they were knee-deep in mud, tying new boards and hammering braces. Rain soaked her hair, plastering it to her face, but she didn't stop. Wade watched her in all the determination in her eyes, the grit that matched his own. When the last board was secure, they stood together under the storm, laughing like fools as lightning flashed across the sky. Back at the house, soaked and shivering, Clara hesitated near the stove. I should dry off in the bunkhouse. You'll catch cold walking through the rain, Wade said firmly. Stay here. I'll light the fire. He hung his hat, knelt to start the flames, and looked up to find her staring into the hearth. Her cheeks pink from heat and embarrassment. He stood slowly. You did get out there? She smiled faintly. You sound surprised. Not surprised, he said softly. Just proud. Her eyes flicked to his warm brown meeting quiet gray, and something in the air shifted. The fire crackled, the storm murmured outside, and for a heartbeat, time felt still. Then Clara stepped back, flustered. I should get some sleep. Wade nodded, voice rough. Right, good night, Clara. The next week passed quietly, but something unspoken lingered between them. One afternoon, Wade returned from town with a small parcel. He placed it on the table before her. What's this? She asked. Just open it. Inside was a blue ribbon, simple but soft, finer than anything she owned. Her eyes widened. Wade, I can't take this. You can, he said, almost shyly. Figured you might want to tie your hair back proper when you cook. Thought blue would suit you. She touched the ribbon, unsure what to say. No one had ever given her something just because they wanted to. Thank you, she whispered. He smiled. You're welcome. That night, she wore the ribbon. Wade noticed, though he said nothing. He only smiled a little longer than usual when she poured his coffee. Weeks turned into months. The ranch grew quieter as winter neared. Snow began to fall in early November, soft and pure. One night after supper, Wade sat by the fire while Clara mended a saddle strap. The lamplight cast a golden glow around her, and he thought, without meaning to, that she looked like home. He hesitated before speaking. Clara, can I ask you something? She looked up. Of course. Why'd you come to Willow Creek? A woman like you could have gone anywhere. She smiled faintly, though her eyes turned distant. My father passed last spring. The ranch was in debt. I sold what little we had left to pay the bank. Came west to start over. Wade nodded slowly. That's brave. She shook her head. No, it's just surviving. Silence fell. Then she said quietly, almost to herself, I know I'm not pretty, not the way men want women to be, but I can work hard. I can be honest. Her voice cracked just a little. That has to count for something. Wade set his cup down and stood. He crossed the room slowly until he stood before her. Clara May, he said softly, look at me. She did. I don't need fancy, he said, voice low and steady. I need someone real. Someone who'll ride through a storm with me, not complain about the mud. Someone who'll fix a saddle instead of buying a new one. That's you. Her eyes glistened. But he shook his head. You think I care about pretty? I've seen sunsets fade and flowers wilt. But honesty that lasts. That's what I need. The tears came before she could stop them. No one's ever said that to me before. He smiled gently. Then I'm glad I said it first. Winter deepened and life on the ranch settled into a rhythm of quiet joy. They worked side by side, laughed over burnt biscuits, and shared stories by the fire. On Christmas morning, Wade left early. When he returned, He carried a small wooden box. For you, he said. Setting it before her. Inside lay a silver locket, simple, elegant. Inside it, a pressed wildflower from the ridge behind the house. It's beautiful, she whispered. He smiled. It reminded me of you. Strong, simple, and still manages to bloom where others wouldn't. She met his eyes, heart trembling. Wade, are you saying? I'm saying, he interrupted softly, this place isn't home without you in it. The room was quiet except for the fire's crackle. Clara stepped closer, her hand trembling slightly as it touched his. You sure about this? She whispered. He smiled. I've never been sure of anything. Spring came at last. The land turned green again, and the ranch buzzed with new life. Clara wore her blue ribbon still, and when she walked beside Wade through the fields, he'd take her hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. One evening, as the sun dipped low, she looked at him and said softly, Do you ever regret hiring me that day? Wade chuckled, pulling her close. Regret it? You're the best decision I ever made. She laughed quietly, resting her head on his shoulder. Funny thing, she murmured. I thought I came here just to work. Turns out, I came here to belong. He kissed her forehead. Told you, Clara May, I didn't need fancy. I needed honest. And under that endless western sky, honesty was all they ever needed.